He opened the front door, wormed his way through the coats hung on pegs in the small vestibule, and stood looking across the hallway to the dining room and the kitchen door beyond. The recollections of sumptuous meals, laughter, and warm embraces reminded him he was home. On the far wall over the sideboard was the familiar portrait of David as a young man, seated with his violin and bow. The other room details were as they'd always been, a fine oriental carpet, now partially worn down to the threads. The candlesticks, whose years of cleaning had exposed their Sheffield copper undergarments. But it was that old swinging kitchen door that drew him into the space he remembered and loved best. The kitchen in the house where he'd grown up was a large sterile formica and stainless steel showroom. Ranks of cabinets with Revereware pots and pans hanging from polished racks above. It was more like an operating surgery than a place where meals were prepared. Indeed, only frozen vegetables, canned fruit, Campbell's soup, and the occasional hamburger or chicken breast made their way to the adjacent dining room. There was no evidence of fresh produce, no herbs, barely a salt and pepper shaker. Anything edible was carefully stashed in one of 3 refrigerators. His mother was not a cook, and certainly not interested in good food. A series of maids and stand-in caterers for larger parties were responsible for all the preparation and cleanup. It was a place as devoid of zest for food as was the remainder of the house, and his growing up there had been devoid of love. But here, in Ipswich, the kitchen was the heart of the family. The floorboards creaked, the windows never fit snugly in their frames. Opening them in a hot summer was always a push. Closing them completely in the rage of a New England winter was equally difficult. In the center of the room, a creased oak hutch held platters and serving pieces. Shelved on either side of the window, looking out onto the gravel driveway and the ancient tennis court beyond, were filled with an assortment of dishes, glasses, cups, and saucers. Around 2 walls, a cornice shelf displayed heirloom china that was used only for very special occasions. The countertops were worn oak or soapstone. A drop-leaf table covered with a checkered cloth sat in front of another window. It was always adorned with a vase of fresh-cut flowers. During the growing season, baskets of fresh fruits and vegetables from the kitchen garden brightened the room. A large rack of herb jars with faded labels and a shelf with cookbooks, whose spines had long since cracked, were testament to many years of daily use. Exploring the refrigerator was like a descent into Tutankhamun's tomb. Little bits of leftovers, precious jars of sauces, whose contents sometimes reminded him of specimens from a biology lab. A hamper for laundry. The washer and dryer were in the adjoining alcove. The dog bed in its wicker nest next to the stove. But, oh, the aromas. They'd been everywhere. A simmering pot of Milanese pasta sauce. The pungent reminder of chicory in the morning coffee. Freshly baked fruit tarts with homemade whipped cream. His favorite tureen of sorrel soup. He remembered with the greatest joy breakfasts, lunches, and dinners, midnight snacks for 1 or 2, flurried preparations for parties of a dozen or more. How he'd loved sitting and talking to Bridie, David's beloved wife, the woman of the house and certainly mistress of this kitchen, as she moved effortlessly through her chores, starting with an untutored palate. Over the years, He'd helped her with many preparations and slowly learned the delicate nuances of French and Italian country cuisine. As he stood in that so familiar space, memories of many delicious meals came rushing back, a metaphor for all the love he cherished here and missed at his own home. But his reverie was interrupted as he pushed through the door and saw David, stooped and mournful.
It's time to go, Nader. We've got to be at the church early. I'm counting on you to organize Bridie's pallbearers. My God. She's really gone.
The realization startled him like a punch on the jaw. She'd fought that damn cancer with the same determination and grace that defined every part of her. How could David ever cope on his own? He would sorely miss Bridie's soft smile, erect posture, and elegant manner. He always thought she was a ringer for Katharine Hepburn, and just hoped the sights, sounds, and wonderful smells from her kitchen, his heaven, would stay with him forever.